Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending today. We appreciate you spending your time with us, and hopefully you'll find this beneficial. My name is Saul Cohen. I'm a product specialist here at Cargus. I've been with the company almost 13 years. Just to give you a little bit of background, used to work for a pretty large fuel delivery company nationwide as head of IT, where I was a customer of Cargus. And then back in 2005, presented business plan to the folks here and came on board, and that's when we started the Cargus Energy product. We started with one customer, Wilson Oil and Propane, outside of Philadelphia. We've grown to over 150 plus customers in that time span. So we'll kind of go through some of the trends today. So again, a little bit about Cargus. We built the software for the energy industry specifically, starting back in 2005 with mobile and wireless technology from the onset. Definitely one of the things that we think is a key differentiator between us and some of the other solutions out in the marketplace. But can basically handle all of the operations, fuel delivery, and HVAC service components for companies like yourself. Cargus has a long history before that. We've been in business. We'll be celebrating our 30th anniversary this year. And we started doing a lot of what we call the business solutions segment of the industry. And that began with the Great Plains accounting software, which is now known as Dynamics GP. We were actually the first CRM, Microsoft Dynamics 365 or CRM partner in the United States. And we added the Sage Intacct accounting product a number of years ago, which is a cloud-based accounting product. So that's the component on the right side there for you. The CRM, we integrate with Cargus Energy, so Microsoft CRM and Salesforce with the energy product in the middle. So all those combined together, we tried to build a best of breed scenario. So hopefully, if those things are applicable for you, those products are available. So the topic today is tech trends. And so we like to say the times they are changing. I wanted to use David Bowie's Changes song here, but I got next from the marketing group. But we trying to really just give an example of how things have dramatically changed. We'll talk about those things specifically, especially when we get into the mobile. When we built our mobile application in 2005, iOS and Android, those applications and phones and operating systems didn't exist. So that wasn't that long ago. So just generally what we'd like to conceptually present here is technology can no longer be something that you only think about like intermittently. It really has to be at the core of what you're doing. The companies that we meet and talk with throughout the country, we recognize that not a lot of them have IT in-house, but that doesn't mean that you can't think about technology as a core component of your operation. It might not be a competency you have specifically, but there's certain things you can outsource or leverage with your partners like Cargus or any of the other companies out in the market space. But I think the thing we really want to stress is that, you know, whether it be your website to facing for your customers or your operations internally, you can really, one of the concepts we had a long time ago is be able to do more with less. So your software, your technology should allow you to do that. We've seen a lot of scenarios like that over the number of years. So our 6 trends that we're really going to focus and talk about today. I'm sure everybody's heard about the cloud, how web-based, easy to use and powerful technology can make that applicable in today's day and age. Again, customer facing, whether it be websites or specific applications. We kind of talk about it Web Portal 2.0 from a concept, second generation of these types of things. They should be able to work on a mobile phone or an iOS or Android app just as well. And you might find, you know, your customers today, the younger generation, millennials, will be more apt to do a search and find your company and be able to access your offerings that way more so than calling and talking to you in the typical fashion. Third item, tank monitoring, also kind of known as Internet of Things or any kind of smart connected devices. So we'll talk about some of those things. CRM and marketing, really customer relationship management, if you don't know what CRM stands for, is really about engaging, having your staff really in focus engage with the task of, acquiring, getting new customers and then keeping and communicating with them and then leveraging those customers and being able to sell more products to them. So we'll dig a little more in depth to that. And then modern mobile. Again, we built our mobile application originally almost 13 years ago. It's transcended since then. The hardware costs for ruggedized devices back then would typically cost about $5,000 per truck. Now you can buy a consumer device that costs less than $300. And then the last one, business intelligence. It's great to be able to capture and have access to all this data, but if you don't have the key performance indicators or KPIs that really allow you to make good, accurate, real-time decisions, then really it's all for naught. With that said, we'll push forward and talk about the cloud, the mysterious cloud. So what is it? It's a collection basically of internet accessible servers. A lot of people, a lot of companies, or a lot of products will talk about being cloud-based. Sometimes that's, not always true. That's not always the case. We here at Cargus have always, at least since the early 2000s, have been developing browser or web-based applications. So those can be hosted on a server in your four walls, or preferably in this day and age in the cloud. There's lots of advantages with regards to that, the hardware, the backup, the accessibility, and things of that nature that we'll talk about here. So regardless of whether you really are comfortable with using the cloud, or even if you think you don't want to use the cloud, more than likely you are. If you go online and do online banking with your local institution of choice, you're using a cloud service. You have that 24/7 access to it. You want to check balances at the middle of the night, you can do that. And then the last piece of that, the key component, are typically what's called APIs, or application programming interfaces. So those types of tools allow, and web services allow, those products to be integrated. So whether if you're just using Quicken or QuickBooks to balance your checkbook, you can download that and have that information integrated into your checking account. So what does it really have to offer the energy companies? We really talk about web-based application, instant access from anywhere, from any device at any point in time. All you got to do is have a link that you go to and be able to put in your credentials and be able to access it. So when we built real-time mapping into our application a number of years ago, with things like Google Maps and different map applications, now you have access to that. It's not a separate product. I don't need a remote desktop. I don't need to log in or do anything like that. I am basically going through a browser and being able to do that. The flexibility that it offers is really unparalleled. If you need to put in a server for your operations in this day and age, you've got to spec it out, the RAM and storage and things like that. With the cloud, you just rent or use what you need at this moment in time. If you need to add more memory or storage or enhance your throughput, a couple clicks and it's done. And you only pay for what you're using at this point in time. So that's really, really advantageous. Having access to this real-time info, whether you're on the road, if you have multiple office locations, basically you have all this information at your fingertips at any point in time. The integration now, as I was talking about the APIs and using web services, having all this information flow to and from whether it be your accounting software or your operations or whatever it might be, or if you're using tank monitors as an example, all that data can flow and show up now in your back office application. And then the last two items really kind of go hand in hand. A lot of people will talk about, are concerned about paying the monthly fees and the monthly costs and don't necessarily want another subscription type of service. But in over a 5-year time frame, we've seen that the actual cloud costs are very, very similar, on par with buying your own hardware, hosting it in-house, all the maintenance and support and backups and things like that. So not having to pay for software licenses, the cloud really takes advantage of tools like Microsoft SQL, the web SQL person. You don't have to pay for individual client licenses. And then lastly, there's better security. You don't have to worry about flood, fire, power outage going out in your office. You don't have to worry about a server or anything being stolen from your location. All of this is hosted in real-time secure locations. The redundancy, if a node in the internet goes out, you have access to that no matter where you are. When we were moving into our new office here a few years ago, and they were working on the street outside, our internet would go down all the time, and we'd just spin up our hotspots, and we'd be able to access our cloud applications. And Cargus herself has moved to the cloud. We moved to an Intact, we moved to Dynamics 365 and Google Drive and tools like that. One of the things some people have heard me say too often is, as a longtime IT guy, I would, at this point in time, I would never buy any server hardware ever again. That might be a little extreme perspective, but hopefully that gives you a little perspective on where we're at in this day and age. All right, on to customer-facing apps. So some of the numbers that we've gotten from our customers, about 150, we're pushing about 70% of our customers have from their website a portal, typically a customer portal, that will allow them to access your customers access their information. And what does that mean? They can log in, they can pay your bills, they can request a delivery, they could request service, they could change an address, they could update a credit card. All of that information now is available. Most of your customers nowadays, you'll never meet them physically. They might not ever call you. So you might not have that direct interaction. And this way of interacting is typically commonplace back in the compared to back in the day. One quick number from when I was at US Fleet, we used to fuel FedEx. And in today's day and age, we don't think it twice if we order something from Amazon, if we track a package via FedEx or UPS, and we track it online. You can see when it was delivered, if it's in transit, whatever the case might be. Well, back in the early 2000s, when FedEx was really pioneering this, they did some analysis, and every time a customer would track a package online versus calling a customer service support center, it would basically save them $8. Again, that was probably about 15 years ago, so the numbers are probably a little bit less in this day and age. But hopefully you can see that we've seen from our customers just the call, the volume traffic. They don't have to handle those mundane transaction and phone calls back and forth. So these types of tools are available to you through some of our partners. They're great products out there that really allow your customers to be self-service. You can get text messaging, email messaging, you can get statements and invoices delivered wirelessly. So really some great tools. So if you haven't considered using something like that, that would definitely be something we recommend. So, how do you avoid not doing this? I mean, most of your competition are typically going to be doing this. One of the things to consider is how real-time it works with your back office application. Some of the applications in this day and age should be all real-time, but if your current product doesn't meet that, that is definitely something to consider why you might want to change your back office. again, there's really tons of advantages to this. It's the way, your customers are going to want to be able to offer to it. Doesn't mean you have to go overboard with this type of stuff. Customers are still going to want to call and talk and interact with humans. They don't want to call, if they call and get the voice message, hit one or say this and that, they want to be able to talk to somebody when need be. But offering the customer-facing web app, having a portal that they can log into and be able to conduct business in this day and age at any point in time during the day is pretty much paramount. Tank monitoring. So this is another interesting stat. So we have about 16% of our customers that are doing the integrated tank monitoring. There's probably a greater, higher percentage that are actually using or experimenting with this. One of our higher profile customers of about 20,000 customers they're pushing close to 5,000 monitors on their tanks. That's pretty significant. Having 1/4 of the tanks being monitored basically takes the guessing game out of the process here. So, when we talk to companies, we visit them all across the country, whether it be in the Northeast and New England or Mid-Atlantic or down south to the West and Midwest. What do most consumers want? They prefer to have their tank filled when they need it without ever having to think about it or order fuel. Granted, there are certain areas that there's a lot of will calls and they want to really, the customers there want to dictate. But we see the majority, if you talk to it, would prefer to have automatic customers, and they don't want to run out, right? That's one of the things that you obviously want to avoid. So what do you, as a fuel delivery company, what do you want, right? You want to do it better than your competition. There's typically, more than one company in your area that's going to do what you want to do. If you can deliver it more efficient, all the better. Some of the analysis we've seen, we had a company in New England that had 14 propane trucks before they started on Cargus Energy. In the first year, typically not this quick, but they were certainly an extreme example. They actually went down to 12 delivery trucks and delivered more product with less deliveries. So that's a great example. Using tank monitors certainly helps you get accurate numbers instead of guesstimates. So if you know the exact level of the customer tank, you see some of the advertising and the marketing and the promotional material the tank monitors talk about is how can you get to that 55, how can you get to that 60% optimal fill every time? Well, tank monitoring does basically take that guessing games out of the threshold. So again, you think about the smartphones, how they've evolved over time. Tank monitors are pretty much going to be commonplace here. You might even get to a point here sooner rather than later that before you set a tank, you're going to have the tank monitor included as part of that. That's where we definitely see the trend going. You think about in your house nowadays with tools like Nest and being able to set your thermometer or your doorbell rings. It can alert you on your phone if you use Alexa or Google Assistant and those types of things. These are all these kind of Internet of Things or smart devices that allow you to interact and do that. And so the tank monitoring one is, and having that integrated in your back office, being able to create deliveries right from here. If you have a warning message on the tank monitor, or battery needs to be replaced, or it's not connectivity, you can create a work order right from Cargus Energy, and then assign that, and dispatch out to a service tech in real time. So again, if you haven't started experimenting with tank monitors, I would certainly recommend. There's probably a dozen different companies. We were at the recent MPGA show down in Atlanta, and we joked we were part of Tank Monitor Row. There was probably half of those companies on the same aisle that we were, and it was pretty busy. So again, it's if you have areas, if you have you can't put customers on automatic, for degree days based upon K-factor or base loads. Definitely recommend you consider it. You eliminate the runouts, you eliminate dispatching the full tanks, take a look at it, and talk to some of our customers who are using that technology. CRM and marketing automation. So customer relationship management. So in this energy industry, getting and maintaining customers is really the name of the game. Your delivery drivers out in the field, your service techs out in the field, they might be your best salespeople that you don't even really consider to be salespeople. Customer service reps included, most of the back office software, most of those things do not have the element, don't have the CRM or the marketing automation tools built in. So what we've done is we've taken the best of breed applications like Microsoft CRM and Salesforce, and we've integrated them in a two-way. So you can take advantage of these tools. We probably have about 8 of our customers right now of 150 so that are using it, but more and more are looking to take advantage of it in this day and age. So what does it really do? It really just helps you manage the sales and marketing process, with the customers that you already have, or maybe lost customers, or you want to buy database or lists from your local market. It's a great tool to plug in that information and analyze your existing customer data, or take advantage of customers who are not currently ones or prospects. So a couple of examples is if you have customers that are using you maybe for propane heat, but they don't have a hot water heater, you want to take a segment of them and do a special thing for hot water heaters, you can do that. You can do it email, you can do bulk mail, you can do call down lists, bunch of different ways that you can do that. And so it's all about expanding your customers, and then the existing customers that you have, hopefully they're going to use you for more and more other additional services. So just some stats from some industry things. In 2017, CRM usage has gone from 56% to 74%. So with 91% of businesses over 11 employees are now using CRM. So these are really great tidbits of information. If you haven't considered this before, this is why. This could separate you from, again, the competition that you have out there. So tailoring your message to these specific groups, as I talked about, the cross, the upsell, your drivers, your techs, all these guys. Now with Cargus Energy, they can log these things as notes out in the field. That data flows back into your back office, gets fed into the CRM system, and then your dedicated salespeople can then act upon that information. So really good stuff. Again, if there's people who are interested in this, we have some other existing customers that, could probably share their best practices and some of their stories. All right, so modern mobile. And the reason why we really specify mobile is, or modern mobile, is when we built Cargus Energy, started building it in 2005. Again, iOS didn't exist, the iPhone didn't exist, the Android, the Google devices did not exist. So we built our platform on Windows devices at the time, so Windows XP and Windows 7. The hardware was rugged and cost way too much money, probably about $5,000 to outfit a truck. Now, what you're talking about is we have a way to do that with a lot cheaper hardware. And so we took some time a few years ago. Our platform is really very flexible since it's web and browser based, but our mobile app was, still looked like it was from the mid 2000s. So we reinvented our mobile delivery application. And we did it as what's called an HTML5 application. So any app that you use on your phones are typically an HTML5 geared app, so it can work on any device. We've geared it towards Androids because they can communicate with the electronic meters and registers, and you don't have to go through the iTunes store. But it's really a much better user interface. It's simple, it's easy to use. When we talk to customers, they always question how easy are my drivers going to get trained on this. We can literally do a training for a driver who might not have ever used the device in less than 2 hours, and he can be up and running on it. Real simple, really easy. So why the mobile? If you're not using mobile application, it eliminates the manual delivery process, whether that's printing the tickets in the office, having drivers hand key or calculate things out. All of that is be able to done from the mobile device. If pricing changes in the middle of the day, you can update that in your office, and that will be fed out to your drivers. But again, there's still a lot of companies out there that have been doing mobile for a while, but they might not be doing it on a modern platform. They're still using older hardware. They're still using older architecture. Our devices and our software can work offline as well as online. And we built our back office and mobile to be, from the beginning, to be tightly integrated. So what you'll see is as we generate a ticket or a work order, it will basically move through a status flow from being created to routed to dispatched to when a driver is in progress or on site, you'll see the status change. We had a great example of some of the bad snowstorms this past year. And, especially up in New England where customer driveways and being have access to fill. An older lady kept on calling one of our customers and was saying, wanted to know the status of her deliveries. And one of the owners of the company, she was talking to her, and she pulled up the customer and she pulled up their ticket, and she could see that it actually said in progress. And so without having to call or see the dispatcher or see what driver had what ticket, she was able to look on the computer instantaneously and then communicate to the customer and say, hey, ma'am, look out your window. The driver's filling your tank right now as we speak. So in the old day and age, how long that would have taken compared to now, the real-time information flow is extremely valuable. So the devices use the built-in cellular capabilities. You just get a shared data plan. They work offline as well as online. And when they get back into an area, it will automatically sync up. So no need to plug in or have them come into the office. You can have delivery drivers take them home. They can look up customers at night or on the weekends and see if somebody's on hold, because we know customers don't try to take advantage of that way. But now your drivers have that same access to that information. So again, it's not just the mobile technology, it's the modern mobile technology. So in the end, the advantage is really you're more flexible and nimble. As a delivery driver, I don't have to wait to hear from the lead dispatcher or the delivery manager. Right, you can enable your guys out in the field to make those decisions in real time. All right, business intelligence. I think this is last. So now that we've captured all of our information, what are we doing with it? So that's definitely one of the things we focus on, is really capturing data accurately, timely. And then the key thing is giving you a good way to view and see that information and make these decisions, because really everyone matters, right? If you get cost updates through DTN or your fuel providers, and you want to be able to have that information automated and then be able to act upon where your drivers go to fill, that is important. That can mean, cents and the margins that you make. So if your old or outdated software really doesn't have the capability of capturing and having this information flow, that's something, should be the first consideration before you look at any BI or reporting or dashboard type of tools. So it is absolutely imperative that it be accurate and you capture it as soon as possible. So what do these tools do? Really, they really help you automate the process, and they do it in real time, and very quickly and automatically, right? I don't have to push a button to run it, right? It happens. I can look at a dashboard, I can look at a KPI. It could reflect an active real time of what your margin is, how many gallons you're delivering, how many miles you're driving, all of those things. And having it be able to be tied together is really valuable. So yeah, using these types of analytics to track it, making and basing your decisions on this. Again, I don't necessarily have to wait to the end of the month to be able to look at these numbers. One of the things we've done with our Intact integration is allowed to do a month-to-date information. So if you're looking, especially this year, which was kind of really warm in February, but March and April have been a little bit colder than normal. You can see where you stand against budget, how many degree days, what margins you thought you were making, and things like that. So, and now you can have your staff see this information too. So it's not just you and corporate or ownership. Really now you can make your staff accountable and be able to act upon this info. Some disclaimers regarding the BI type of stuff. It definitely should be cloud-based. It should be always available in real time. The automated aspect of what we were discussing. So again, it should be flowing directly from your back office data, and you should be able to see that whenever you want. Again, only as good as your back office. One of the things that we differentiate here at Cargus Energy with our database is we have a centralized database. If you operate different divisions or operations in far-flung areas, it still can be one database, but that operations of those businesses can be segmented, but still being under one centralized database. So when I'm looking at reporting, if I have multiple entities, I can roll all that up. I can consolidate that reporting. So really the bottom line is, better business intelligence could require you to look to updating your back office or your operational software. So what's the end game here? What should you do? You may think of yourself really as only as a fuel delivery company, but in reality nowadays you're using leveraging technology or logistics, just like that FedEx scenario that I was talking about. And you don't really have to do it all at once. Really, you can start by building an internal roadmap. So I would really kind of focus on things that are key to you. There's a reason why we had CRM at the end, right? I probably wouldn't start with CRM. That would be like at the end typically of it. But focus on the things that you want to do. If you're not using a mobile technology, I think it's pretty much paramount in this day and age that you need to. But if your back office doesn't handle it well, then you might think about the cloud and the operation things. So, try to find a couple key areas where you want to focus those key results that you hope to achieve. And that's going to really generate your business value. Not everybody's going to be at Amazon. When Amazon came on the scenes, as a bookseller online, and that's how they originated. But the real beauty, the real intrigue, and the real value in what Amazon has done is Amazon Web Services and the technology platform that they built. So again, they were selling books, but it was really the technology backbone that's made them what they are today. You don't have to be quite like them. Not many companies will actually be like them in this day and age, but you got to start somewhere, all right? And so, if you have questions, again, feel free to reach out to us, and certainly we can help. So, what's the final takeaway? Most of these trends won't be long. They'll be commonplace. Again, I think tank monitoring has really already become that mobile as well. CRM is definitely a little bit more in the forefront. We get a lot of interest, and more interest of that with our customers. I think pretty much all of our customers are going to the cloud over the last few years. So So all those things, it's coming whether you like it or not. So the question will be, whether you embrace it or you run from it. We were just at another company, and a little bit older generation, and gentleman owner of the company was asking, so does this mean my information's out in the cloud? And the answer is yes. But it's there whether you want to or not, right? It doesn't matter whether you use social media apps or not. It doesn't matter whether you use online banking or not. The bank has your information out there. So you should embrace it, really, then run from it, is really the point that we're trying to make. All right, with that being said, we appreciate everybody's attention today. Hopefully I didn't go on too long or drone on. I think we hit our time frame. So here's some of my contact information. You can reach me at scohen@cargus.com. That's my mobile phone number, 856-912-7133.